So I'm glad that you joined me again. I could just say good job because guess what today we're talking about? Praise, using praise. And all of the techniques for using praise, they direct it toward kids, but you can use it for anybody because what adult does not like to be, told that they're doing something right? And might I add, every single one of these things in here works for dogs. So when I was doing dog training many years ago, because I'm also a dog trainer from 1992 on, praise was a big deal. Reward and praise, that's what you do with the dogs. Praise works better. They've actually done studies that praise works better than discipline or punishment. They say discipline in this article, but if you take the actual definition of discipline, discipline means to be a disciple of. So that means that whoever this person is doing the disciplining should be teaching by example, and that isn't happening usually. So that's why praise is so helpful and much more effective than yelling and screaming and hollering and smacking around kids or dogs or adults. So the trick is to be attentive because a lot of times if they're not making noise, that's good. That's good. Sometimes if they're not making noise, you're like, uh-oh, they're not making noise. What are they into? So yeah, it can work both ways. But so when you catch your kid or your dog doing something good, then focus on the good part. Praise them for being good in that moment. So on this thing it says sometimes it can just be an absence of unwanted behavior. So let's say you have a kid that yells and screams all the time for just no apparent reason, or you have a dog that barks all the time for no apparent reason, and when they're not yelling and screaming all the time or barking all the time, praise them. For a dog you would say, that's so good not to bark, or whatever. It's so good to be quiet. Technically, when you're praising, you want to try and use positive statements instead of saying, like I just did, ignore that. Instead of saying, so good not to yell and scream or not to bark or not to whatever, reverse it and say it's so good to be quiet or it's so good to whatever it is that they're doing. So it's a positive thing. On this thing, a couple of the examples says, thank you for remembering to start your chores, or good job remembering to bring home your homework. Obviously that's directed towards kids, not dogs. And again, this is all about kids. But again, you can use it for dogs and for people, people, like kids aren't people, adults. So there's a lot of birds around here, just by the way, if you hear a lot of birds. I'm at a little park, actually it's kind of a big park, that has lots and lots of different birds and animals and all over the place. And these birds are nesting under this thing, so I took an off-ramp. The second thing on here, on this list of how to praise and how to make it effective, is to start with the small steps. And small steps, baby steps are most effective for just about anything. So an easy goal for adults might be a giant, huge thing for kids or dogs, because a full-grown adult dog has the mentality of like a 5-year-old kid. So that's pretty much you're dealing with a kid, whether your dog's 18 or whether your dog is 3. You've got different breeds age at different rates, and anyway, I'm not going to go into that. So, and there are an inordinate number of bees around here. I was someplace else, and they were taking a liking to me because I'm wearing a red shirt, so I had to move. Now I'm over here at this place. I was trying to stay away from this lovely garbage can over here. Anyway, they were still buzzing around. Again, sidetracked. I do that all the time. So when you're praising your kids or your dog, start small. Start by praising the steps instead of the outcome. You're looking for this outcome, but you might not get the outcome. It's like you tell your kid to go find your shoes and socks and put them on and come back here. That's a list, you got a list. You're giving a kid a list. So it's like, break it down, small steps, praise them for each step. It's like, good job getting your socks, good job getting your shoes, good job putting them on, things like that. And try to vary the praise, because if you constantly say, good job, good job, good job. It's like they'll start tuning that out. So you did a great job, or thank you for doing this, or you're so studious. We'll get to that one too. Or, you were really good during dinner, that kind of thing. So, and thanking them. There's nothing in the rule books of parenthood or doghood, but parenthood, that says that you can't tell your kids please and thank you, and that you can't tell them you're sorry, because parents make mistakes. Parents screw up. They overreact or whatever, and it's okay to tell your kid you're sorry and mean it. Say, listen, I'm sorry that I, did X, Y, Z. I hope you can forgive me. Maybe we can try that over. Can I have a do-over kind of thing? So make a point of praising your child's good behaviors, even if they seem ordinary. So the absence of unwanted behaviors is good behaviors. Keep that in mind. The absence of unwanted behaviors is good behavior. And then praise the effort, not the outcome. And I think I already said that to some degree. It says many things in life are out of our control. For example, if your kid studies and studies and studies for this test, or does his homework and struggles over it, especially like Common Core, math or whatever, if they just don't get it, or if they're trying their hardest and they still don't pass that test, or they still don't get the grade that they're looking for, praise them for the effort of studying. You did a really good job studying. I'm sorry you didn't get the grade you wanted, that kind of thing. Instead of saying, well, you just didn't try hard enough. Like if they try out for some kind of sports team or something and they still don't get picked, I'm proud of you for trying. You don't get anywhere in life unless you try, right? So kids also need to hear that you're proud of them for whatever. Because a lot of people grow up and never ever hear from their parents that they're proud of them for anything. I'm proud of you for, graduating high school, or I'm proud of you for being a good kid today at church or at school or whatever. The little things can mean a lot to a kid, because this is a whole nother topic. This is a whole nother video. But the way we react emotionally as adults to something is based on the first time we reacted to something similar when we first had that reaction. So let's say, again, we're totally off topic for a minute. Let's say when you were 5, somebody yelled at you or told you you were dumb or whatever, and inside that little 5-year-old got hurt. They were like embarrassed or ashamed or sad or mad or whatever. Pick an emotion. There's 6 basic emotions. And then if that continues, or if that was never actually healed in a healthy way, then as an adult, when somebody says something to them that is similar to you were dumb or whatever, they're going to react internally like that little hurt 5-year-old. They may not come out and scream and holler like a 5-year-old, but inside they're still going to feel hurt like a 5-year-old, and they won't know why. There's lots of parts work and stuff like that can go on with that, but that's a therapist thing, so go see a therapist if you have issues with that. But there's something to that, and people tend to think, well, how come everything, you want to go back to childhood for everything? It's not parent bashing or something. It's not parent bashing. It's emotional foundation. It's where your emotional foundation started and where it went as an adult. If these things were never dealt with or healed in a way that is healthy, then those things are going to carry over into your relationships, and then that can go all south really fast. So, coming back to the topic at hand, which was praising the effort, not the outcome. The other one is don't sweat the small stuff, which I have always advocated. Pick your battles. What do you really want to argue about, right? What do you want to drill into them? Because if you sweat the small stuff and get on your kids for every little dang thing, they're either going to tune you out, think you're crazy, or can't wait till they're 18 and get out of the house. Because that's no way to live. It's like constantly bickering with them. It's like, you didn't pick up this. How come you did that? You should have done this. Over there, you did, that kind of thing. What's most important? Because on here it says when kids don't get positive attention, they'll settle for negative attention or any kind of attention. Again, same with dogs. If an unwanted behavior isn't dangerous or destructive, ignore it to the best of your ability. Because, again, if it's not dangerous or destructive, and you have to kind of figure out, okay, is somebody going to get hurt? Or is something going to get destroyed? Or, or the cop's going to come or something. It's like you have to kind of say, okay, so my kid doesn't want to brush his teeth tonight, and he's pitching a fit about brushing his teeth tonight. Okay, in the grand scheme of things, is that really a big deal if he doesn't brush his teeth tonight? Do you want to argue about that every night or not? If he gets a few cavities, he'll learn. I should brush my teeth, right? Because this is an experience thing. They need to learn these things on their own sometimes. And it's like, don't argue with them about every little thing. Yeah, your mom, or yeah, your dad, or caregiver, grandma, grandpa, or somebody, you're in charge of these kids, and you want to make sure that they're hygienic and that they're taking care of themselves and that kind of thing, but it can go overboard sometimes. So on here it says, if the unwanted behavior, after the unwanted behavior has stopped, wait a little bit and then praise them for doing something good, whatever it is that they're doing that's good. So whatever that unwanted behavior was, praise them for doing something good. So let's say your kid takes the markers to the wall and starts drawing on the wall. Well, obviously that's destructive. So you want to stop that, but you're going to have to redirect it to something else that's more constructive. Same with dogs. Dogs are chewing on the edge of the furniture and you're like, no, stop chewing on the furniture. Redirect it to something good. Like give them, say, don't chew on that. It's like, leave it. Here, chew on this instead, like a bone or something, or play ball with them or something. Same with kids. They're screaming and hollering and running around the house. They have no direction or anything. Give them something else to do. Right? So, and then the last one is be consistent. And that's probably the biggest problem for dog owners, pet owners in general, parents, just people in general, is being consistent. Because you have to do these things repeatedly. You can't just praise them once and then hope that the behavior goes away. Oh, you did a great job with your homework. Good job studying. Then that's it. And, you expect that to carry them until they're 18 or whatever. That's not going to happen. So be consistent. And part of being a good leader in general, and as a parent, you're a good leader. You need to be a good leader, a good example. Same with being a pet owner, is to be fair, which is recognizing the limitations, recognizing what you're asking compared to what they're able to give, and to be consistent, which we just talked about, being consistent in following up and following up and following up. And when you say you're going to do something, do it. Don't just say, I'm going to count to 3, and if you don't get over here by 3, I'm going to come over there and get you, and you're not going to be happy about it. Well, first of all, there's a couple things wrong with that. But it's the 1, 2, 3, a 1, 2, 2.5, 2 3/4, and then 3 comes, and then you don't do anything about it. So kids are going to learn you're not consistent. You're not going to follow through. There's no follow through there. So, and being competent is another one that is being a good leader. And that works for dogs and for kids, being competent. So know what you're doing. Don't try to sell them on something that you're not bought into, right? And so you have fair and competent and consistent and compassionate. You need to be compassionate. You need to recognize these are kids you're dealing with. They're not full-grown adults. Kids' brains don't fully develop until they're 23, 25, somewhere around in that range, depending on if they're male or female, which opens up a whole other host of issues with the age of the brain and what the kids can do at certain ages. And so, but fully developed brains don't happen until they're in their 20s. So you're dealing with somebody who has a little bit less capacity than an adult, right? So you need to follow through, be consistent, start with small steps, catch them doing something good. And it says, so on this list it says, catch your child being good, or your dog. Start with small steps, praise effort, not outcome. That works for dogs too. You're trying to get them to sit or whatever, and they're just not getting it. Go to something that they know how to do well. Instead of saying, well, I tried to get you to sit 15 times and you're not doing it, or you're getting too distracted, and then you just quit in a huff. Don't do that. End on something good. Do something you know they know how to do. This works for kids too. Like if you're trying to teach your kid, how to tie their shoes, and they're just not getting it. Quit doing that and teach them, end on something positive, something you know they know how to do. It can be related to that. It's like, okay, taking your shoes off and putting them in the closet or whatever. But if you can't get through to them in that particular moment that you're trying to get through to them, get them to do something that you know they can do successfully. And then don't sweat the small stuff, and then be consistent. Those are basically the 5 things, I think it was, on this list of how to use praise for kids. And again, lead by example. If you don't want your kids to yell and scream and hit each other, don't yell and scream and hit them, and don't yell and scream and hit your spouse or anybody else in the house, or your animals. Don't yell and scream and hit your animals either. And if you want them to do certain things a certain way, lead by example, and don't get mad when they don't learn how to do it right off the bat. You just teach them by steps, step by step. That's where the compassionate part comes in. So anyway, that was way longer than the actual handout was actually, which is using praise is what the thing was. And I, again, took many off-ramps. Is what I do best, taking off-ramps. Anyway, so that's about all for today. And can I hear a hallelujah? I'm sure that there is one, if you got this far. So I will be back. So in the meantime, take it easy, and I will talk to you later.